Good morning. Welcome into Five Clubs here on Golf Channel. You can also listen to us on the PGA Tour Radio Network on Sirius XM. We are presented by Century Insurance, right by you. They do the right things when it comes to investing in the game of golf, from the relationship with the USGA to the First Tee and, of course, the PGA Tour, and also Pinehurst, Golf Pride, and Peter Millar. When I think of Golf Pride, every level of every player around the world trusts Golf Pride more than anybody. They are apparel provider for this company, for this outfit, and for me, for the last 15 years, has been Peter Millar and, of course, Pinehurst. They are the cradle of American golf. Looking forward to being there Friday. It's going to be a high of about 41. Who cares? Playing Pinehurst, number 10. Dan Hicks is going to join us this morning. Also, Brendon de Jonge and Johnson Wagner as well. They're guys who talk about the game of golf. Two of them played it at the highest level. Dan has called it at the highest level for a long, long time. And we're going to get to him and a few other thoughts here in just a second. I do want to start, though. You know, yesterday, TGL had a triple header. And it was a holiday. Some people around here weren't aware that it was a holiday. They're going, what are they doing? Why is golf on at 1 o'clock in the afternoon? Well, it was President's Day. So they go triple header. And I thought it was very entertaining. And look, it helps. It helps any competition, however intense the competition is, if it's close and they had good matches and it was fun and they've made some tweaks, some alterations to the hammer rule. And I'm not going to get into the weeds on that. And I thought the nightcap last night, and Rory adds a certain pizzazz, but so does Ludvig Aberg. I'm telling you, he's very much, he's got some Federer in him, and I love the way that he comports himself. But I want to talk about the guy who was navigating the whole thing, and that was Matt Berry. He was essentially not by himself because he had Marty Smith. Scott Van Pelt joined them for the nightcap. But Matt is up there, and he is literally taking this thing from taking off to landing it at the end of the day. And as somebody who has watched and loved television and televised sports my whole life, I'm interested in that. How mechanically and technically the team that you see and then the number of people you don't do all of this stuff. And I thought it was a really good day for them, and I thought he proved what he's proving night in and night out, doing all the stuff he does. He does a lot of college football. He's got an affinity for golf. He's part of ESPN's coverage of their major championships at the Masters tournament in the PGA. He did an excellent job. And it gets me to this, which is golf and television. Dan Hicks is going to be on with us here in about 10 minutes. And Dan Hicks is somebody who wanted to do this kind of stuff since he was a little kid. Truly did. Used to take a little tape recorder and a microphone to a minor league baseball park in Tucson, Arizona, and act like he was calling games. And I love the idea that that's what he wanted to do, and he's doing it. But consider that CBS just wrapped up the West Coast swing, and we will see them again at the Masters tournament. And now NBC takes the baton, led by Dan Hicks. Dan began with NBC, and in particular doing golf in the early 90s. And then he became the lead anchor for NBC's golf coverage in 2000. He took that baton from Dick Enberg. Dick Enberg passed him the baton, an icon, a broadcast legend. And then Jim Nantz, who kind of many people think is the voice of golf in America, and rightfully so. He introduced himself to a national audience being part of CBS's broadcast of the 1986 Masters. They had a pretty good year that year. Nicklaus, 30 on the back. He wins again at 46. And there is a 26-year-old Jim Nantz on the 16th hole. And as he said, and he's said many times, but he was one of our first guests here back in the beginning of January, he was really in the deep end of the pool. And he handled it. And he took the baton in 1994. 1994 from a guy named Summerall. Are you kidding? So consider that golf in America, the way that we have consumed it, and this is very different from college football, college basketball, the National Football League, Major League Baseball. Every game of every sport, if you want to see it, you can find it. But with golf, essentially it comes down to a couple of networks. And now with the digital platform and with streaming, you have the presence, and rightfully so, of ESPN Plus, and you have a lot of voices, very capable voices. But at the network level, two men have been shepherding and stewarding golf in America for more than a quarter century, and in the case of Jim Nantz, for more than 3 decades. So, like Keith Jackson back in the time when college football had a game, and for 50 years, Keith Jackson was presenting to you the most important game every single Saturday on the landscape of college football. And for many, many years, look, ESPN built itself when it was born in 1979 on the backs of college basketball. It really did. That's where they got all their programming. And Dick Vitale became somebody that you went, if it's a big game, he's doing the game. But think about that. As we make our way from the winter months into the springtime and eventually into summer, a voice, two voices for the most part, take us through what is kind of the tapestry of golf on the PGA Tour and the 4 major championships. CBS does 2, NBC does 2, and NBC has the President's Cup and the Ryder Cup. So for all the things that we talk about, that we want more change, we want improvements, we want a way so that the commercial load is lightened. And I understand that. And I think technology has become a great asset for golf. And so has aerial footage and drone coverage. But where you try to find the things that matter to you most, if you're a fan of the Minnesota Twins or the Angels or the Rangers, you listen to your guys. But even Fox, when they do their games on the weekend, they have regional telecasts. There's no regionalizing of golf in this country. If you want to watch it, you listen to 2 people and their team of broadcasters. That's an extraordinary thing. And tennis, which is also an individual sport, we don't think about that. Tennis Channel exists, and I know the people who are on there, but they're not at the network level, week in and week out, with semifinals and finals of their circuits leading to the Grand Slam events. Golf has it at the network level. And these are not guys who are just confined to golf. Jim Nantz is going to go down. If you want to put him on Mount Rushmore now, do it. And Dan, by showing the versatility and range that he has, I can't think of watching another Olympic Games without him calling swimming, not to mention college football as well. It's an extraordinary thing. All right, now that I've pumped him up, we'll take a little break, and Dan Hicks, the voice of golf on NBC, is going to join me as they embark on another year. What is important to him, and how does he feel sitting in the broadcast booth when they go to a certain player? Is he thinking, people are interested in that guy? Who's captive to him as somebody who's insulated from the outside world calling the product? And of course, Brendon and Johnson, a little steak for breakfast on a Tuesday. It's a Tuesday here on 5 Clubs on Golf Channel and on the PGA Tour Radio Network. We continue with you right after this. Welcome back into 5 Clubs. I am Gary Williams. Great to have you with us on this Tuesday. This segment brought to you by Golf Pride, the most trusted grip in golf at all levels. And now the Align Max is available to you. I've got them on my clubs. Tremendous grip. Of course, the reverse taper grip on my putter. Golf Pride, again, everybody trusts the best grip in golf. You know who they trust as well? Voices in broadcasting you can count on. And joining me now, they take the baton from CBS and it's theirs for the next 5 weeks. And he can do it all, starting with the Tucson Toros, when he would take his little microphone out there back in the day. I'm speaking of Dan Hicks. Dan, good morning. How are you, my friend?
Hey, good morning, Gary. I have not heard the word Tucson Toros uttered in quite a while, but I'm very familiar with them. That's what I used to do. I used to go to the stadium and take my little tape recorder and just fake like I was doing the game up in the stands by myself. It was a Pacific Coast League team in Tucson, and you know, you do anything you can to get started in this business. And, you know, all these years later, I'm still doing it.
You are, getting the band back together. You're a Sinatra guy. You're the band leader, and here we go again. This year, 2025. For people, I was talking about voices that you trust, and the fact that you and Nance have been doing this at the network level, carrying people from the winter months through the spring and summer into the fall, calling golf. This team, Dan, this is different from doing a college football game. Swimming, you may have a fortnight like you do around the Olympics and you're together, but golf is different. You get there, you hang out in the trailer. This team, these are people that are a huge part of your life, are they not?
Absolutely. I mean, I got to NBC in 1992. So what is that, 34 years now? Tommy Roy has been involved as our lead producer since then. And, you mentioned Olympic swimming and some other events. I've also done all of those events with Tommy. So we go back to 1992, and there's no replicating all the reps that you get with somebody like Tommy and the rest of the team. Tom Randolph's been back there looking at the big, huge monitor board all these years and just telling us where to go next. And I think those guys do it better than anybody ever has. Might be a little biased, but I think those guys kind of get around the golf course and give you the storylines of what's happening, as many as we can through the course of a telecast. And of course, Gary Koch and Johnny Miller and Roger Maltby through the years were just incredible partners. And we've had a real cohesiveness through the years. And I think more than any other sport, I think it really helps to have the same guys and women together. I think it shows. I think you kind of have a built-in ESP, kind of knowing what the other person's thinking, where they want to go, what they're thinking, storylines. So been incredibly fortunate to be at a place like NBC all these years, to call all the great events we have, from Ryder Cups to U.S. Opens and Open Championships now and Players Championships. It's been a dream ride, Gary. It really has. I
know you mentioned Roger and Gary. I know they're going to be part of the Players broadcast. Gary's going to do the Valspar. That's home for him right there in the greater Tampa area. Plus the infusion of younger voices, the connection to the present player with Smiley and John Wood. And, of course, Bones back in the significant role he had before going back on the bag for Justin. So the team is totally fortified. Do you remember... you're going back 92. Do you remember the first big moment you felt in golf that you had as being part of a broadcast team?
Well, I was on an outer tower for several years before I had the chance to jump up to the 18th tower with Johnny. So I have to start with my first U.S. Open in 2000 in the 18th tower. With Johnny, and it was 2000, and there was a great anticipation for it at Pebble Beach, the 100th U.S. Open. That later I incorporated that into my call when a guy by the name of Tiger Woods won by 15 shots. First time I'd been in the tower for a major championship, a U.S. Open, Pebble Beach, Tiger Woods lapping the field. So that's kind of the first time I really felt the electricity, the nerves, and everything all encompassing that makes up not only a U.S. Open, but an historic U.S. Open with a guy like Tiger Woods. And you got this feeling that as it was happening, we're never going to see anything like this again. We're never going to see this kind of performance top to bottom, Thursday through Sunday in a major championship again. And we haven't. And you had that feeling that was going to be the case. And that one stands out as far as the first big kind of surreal pinch me kind of moment.
Dan, you're, like I said, when you're a kid, you know what you want to do. So you're not just doing this as a vocation. You love television. You've got your spouse is a Hall of Fame broadcaster as well. You listen to what people are saying. What do you think in terms of the advances, the things that the viewer wants? What do you think is most important to try to provide as we head into 2025 for you guys?
I think it's to continue to tell the stories of these guys. I think that's what drives sports. I think that people have to care about the people that they're watching, and if they don't, it's really kind of a tune-out. So I think that'll never change, Gary. I think you have to tell the stories of the people that you're watching, because if you don't care about them, I mean, what's the point, right? And then you also have to illustrate the magnitude of what they are going for and put it in perspective. like a Scottie Scheffler, that has been pretty challenging because he has really taken the bar to a next level after what I was describing that Tiger did all those years. So, I mean, a guy like Scottie Scheffler, we're responsible for letting the audience, the best we can, know exactly what he's doing. What kind of historical perspective is this? We're going to go into the Players' Championship again. He's going to try to win 3 straight Players' Championship. No one had ever won 2 in a row. And that'll be one of the highlights of our swing coming up as we do 7 in a row. He's won 2 of the last 3 Bay Hills. So, he's just going to be gearing up and do another run at another Masters. So I think, again, the real template remains the same, right? It's storytelling. And we can do that in many ways. You can kind of have some new bells and whistles. You kind of tell the story of the golf course that you're on. But I think it's really up to me and the rest of the crew to just give everybody a reason to care about what they're watching. I think that's the bottom line.
The story early on, Dan, has been 2 things in particular in my estimation. That is 7 winners, 7 different nations, but specifically Europe, making an early statement in terms of their depth. And you know where we're all headed. We're headed to a cauldron on Long Island. And I think back to you in '99 and that head of lettuce that was flowing when they sent it down to you, which was spectacular.
Not so much anymore. I wouldn't say it's a flow.
Well, you still got some flow. Luke Donald, Dan, they are bringing, I said this yesterday, they're bringing dudes. And they're not scared. I think that's an early storyline. Do you not?
I think it's an early storyline. I think you nailed it early. And we've been doing these Ryder Cups, at NBC since Kiowa, back in '91. My first Ryder Cup was '93. And you can get caught up into it a little bit. Oh, Rory's playing well and Oberg is playing well. But we're still a long way away, Gary, from the green light at Bethpage. So I think you got to kind of keep it in perspective. Even though the U.S. and even the European side has tried to kind of push the Ryder Cup captains' picks closer and closer to, when they pull the trigger on that to try to get a gauge of exactly who's playing well. This game of golf is crazy, isn't it? You can be playing well, and then a week or 2 later, you can be trying to find it again. So I think we got to be careful. I think it's definitely worthy. I think what you said is definitely might be a theme as we get closer and closer to it. But we're still a long way away. And another thing I'm looking forward to, Gary, we mentioned Gary coming back at the Valspar on the Players Championship and Roger joining him. We have 2 guys on our team: John Wood, who's now the general manager of the Ryder Cup team, and Kevin Kisner, who was named an assistant captain. So I'm really looking forward to getting their stories as we get closer. They're almost like we've got 2 guys embedded within the team. Obviously, they can't share all the secrets and all the wisdom that Keegan Bradley and company are mixing up as we get closer. But I think we're going to have a chance to really take everybody even deeper inside the team room, the strategy. John Wood's so excellent, loves the Ryder Cup. He's going to be a huge part of that team. And Kevin Kisner is going to give us that other side, right? Of what's going on in that team room. Is everybody loose and this and that? So we're going to be leaning on those guys as we get set for what I think is, one of the most, if not the most anticipated. Maybe Kiowa was very anticipated, but this certainly one of the most anticipated Ryder Cups ever. And I think it will go down as, and this is saying a lot, but I think it's going to go down as one of the great sporting events in New York history, as long as it's close. And I think we might get one of those. Yeah,
I agree with you on that. All right, let's get Dan Hicks out of here with 5 to go. 5 questions for the lead man for NBC's golf coverage. All right, you are, for people who don't know, you can do impressions. What is your best favorite impression? And give the answer with that impression.
That is a hard one. But I will go with one of my NBC colleagues, and no, it's not Bob Costas. I think one of the most fun ones I've ever had the pleasure and the privilege to do is a guy by the name of Tom Brokaw, where, as NBC's Andrew Mitchell reports tonight, there seem to be more questions than answers.
Tremendous. All right, for people who don't know, Dan is kind of like Neil Page in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. He never has any luck. So the last time you took off, landed, and then returned on time, some trip, whether it was leisure or work, when was the last time you had an on-time departure arrival in both directions?
Let's see, on-time departure. You know, LaGuardia stepped up the game, Gary. I used to get on LaGuardia big time. I would spend, like, you know, back in the days when it was called Twitter, I would spend, you know, I would just fill up my line with, it was the only way I could get through it. LaGuardia has stepped it up. I have not had a bad experience at LaGuardia in years.
Wow.
But I will say, because I mean, it's like a primetime airport now.
It's
took
amazing.
10 years to get it.
It's tremendous.
There. But JFK is kind of a mess. I'm going to be absolutely frank with that. Construction on the way there, construction at the airport itself. And I had a disastrous experience there a couple weeks ago, which we don't have time to get into, but it was not good. Got turned around back to the jet and started over.
All right. The sports moment, all time, could be the call, could be the play, whatever, that anytime you see it, it either makes you laugh or smile. I know you've got a catalog of these, like, oh gosh, every time I see that, I smile. Give me one.
You know, wow. There's been a lot of great moments. I just think I was so proud of our team at the 2008 U.S. Open. I know it's low-hanging. The way we handled it when Tiger made that putt that he had to have, and we just got through watching Torrey Pines, and I was just filled with great memories again as we watched Oberg come to that same par 5 18th. So when Tiger made that putt to join Rocco in the playoff on Monday, that stands apart. It really does. It was that special.
I thought maybe you go Jason Lezak. I'm telling you, Dan.
That's true.
The hysteria of Rowdy Gaines makes me smile ear to ear when I hear it every time.
I'm going to change it to Jason Lezak. You're absolutely right. I got in the golf mode here, and I didn't really look outside that bubble. The Jason Lezak scene was absolutely something you couldn't even write in a million scripts out of Hollywood. Is that good?
No, not at all. All right, you and your wife Hannah Storm's favorite joint. I'm talking about a place that the vibe is great, the food matches it. What is your most reliable joint for you guys to go and know that they always deliver? Is it in
This is
Greenwich?
very easy answer. What do they say about real estate? Location, location, location. We have a place that is literally 5 minutes down the road called Louie's in Coscob, on the edge of Coscob. I don't know if you've been there, Gary. If you haven't, you got to make your way over. It's kind of like a Cheers. We go to the bar. We don't make a reservation. We go right to the bar. They know us. They get us in there, and the food is excellent each and every time. Louie's of Greenwich, Coscob is the call.
All right, very good. Last thing, your favorite hang in golf, where is it?
Wow. I got to go for that nostalgia thing again. And since we were talking about Roger Maltby earlier on, Morton's in Orlando. It is the flagship Morton's. Roger and I, along with Jimmy Roberts and a couple other guys, have probably been to more Morton's than anybody in the history of mankind. And the place that started it all, right down the street from Marnie's place, Morton's flagship all-timer.
On Sand Lake Boulevard in
On
Orlando,
Sand Lake
Florida.
Boulevard, baby.
Absolutely.
That's it. Yep.
Hey, listen, it's good to see you. Looking forward to you guys taking it. I'll see you at the Players. Thanks so much for doing this.
Gary, great to see you. And I got to tell you how nice it is to wake up in the morning again. It's been a while to wake up in the morning again, go to Golf Channel, see you on there. You do a fantastic job. You know the game, and you just do it all sorts of justice. So great to be with you.
Thank you. That is Dan Hicks. And again, NBC taking the coverage starting this week in Mexico all the way through the entire Florida swing. All right, we take a break. Brendon and Johnson, a little steak for breakfast, Wagyu Filet, coming up next right here on 5 Clubs. It is the bottom of the hour. Welcome back into 5 Clubs here on Golf Channel. You can also listen to us on the PGA Tour Radio Network on Sirius XM. These guys join me every other week. They have their own show on SiriusXM on Monday nights. It's Wagyu Filet. And of course, they do their own show here that we distribute on the Five Club's YouTube channel as well. I'm speaking of Brendon de Jonge and Johnson Wagner. They are separated today. Maybe that's a good thing because Johnson taking shots at Brendon's attire. Johnson stranded up in Connecticut trying to make it back. Boys, good morning as we do a little triple box here. How we doing?
Doing great, Gary. Happy to be here. I just think Brendon looks so much better in solids. I mean, big guys, we got to wear solid colors. We can't wear the window pane.
You know, when you get dressed, sometimes you're excited about what you're wearing. I thought I was going to look good, and then the first thing I get is just a kick from Johnson.
I think you look great myself. That's a nice 4-ply cashmere. Well played. All right, let me start with you guys on this. Look, we just talked to Dan Hicks. You guys are now, immersing yourself in covering the game. And Johnson, look, people appreciate all the stuff that you're doing. And the other night in the studio, you had some pointed thoughts about Rory McIlroy. Feedback from that in terms of the next 24 hours. It wasn't that outrageous. You were emotional. You shared your thoughts. Just the aftermath of sharing your truth about things that you were hearing from him. What was the next day like?
It was guilt-ridden, I would say, a little bit, but I got a lot of positive response from some players, from some tournament directors, from some sponsors of events that appreciated my comments. And I think the root of what I said, and I don't regret saying anything, the root of what I said was passionate about what I believed. I feel like Rory has been sounding off in the media a lot lately. And it's not that I disagree with what he's trying to say. I think reunifying the game unfortunately we're at that point. But the fact that he wants everybody just to get over it, it feels a little bit, tone deaf that we're now, because of Live and everything, we're cutting 20% of the cards away from the PGA Tour. The Korn Ferry Tour is losing 10 of their spots. DP World Tour is untouched. It's like, I think the message is fine, but for a lot of people that make their living sort of on the lower end of the PGA Tour, it's not that easy just to get over it, as he said. And going forward, I'm going to try to speak the same way, but maybe take a little bit of the emotion out of it. I think the one mistake I made was that I said he's angering me. I regret saying that. And other than that, I stand by what I said.
Yeah, Brendon, you're doing PGA Tour Live. You're down there in Ponte Vedra. I don't know if you saw this live, but when you did see it, which I know you have, what was your reaction?
I like the fact that Johnson felt that passionate about it. I know Johnson very well. He's a passionate person. He wears his heart on his sleeve. I didn't disagree with the comments that Rory made, not to the extent that Johnson did. It is because of this rival tour that's come around that we are seeing purses of $20 million now. There is the opportunity for these guys to make a lot of money. The one thing that I really didn't like about what Rory said was the way he's like, just get over it. Rory was at the start of this, Rory was the face of the PGA Tour that was saying, hang on a second, this is not happening. These guys need to be kicked off, never allowed to be back on the PGA Tour. And then just to flip it and say, you know what, just don't be butthurt, get over it. That was the wording of his I didn't really care for either. But no, as far as Johnson's reaction, I love seeing him get mad like that. I think it's great. It shows that he truly cares. And the fact that Rory would be willing to reach out to Johnson after that also tells me that Johnson's got a voice in the game that actually really matters now. And I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, that's undeniable. It made me think, as two people who were immersed in playing the game and being as good as you could be for as long as you could be, and now turning the page and immersing yourself in this part of it, covering the game. I want you to hearken back, and Brendon, let me start with you. What was your feelings about the way golf was covered when you were playing and all the way up to being on a President's Cup team? What did you think of the televised product and people who covered the game?
Gary, I didn't understand everything that went into putting on a golf broadcast or covering golf. I thought it was simple. It was a guy out there with a camera, and that was kind of it, right? I didn't realize everything that went into it, that it's a team. It's a huge team that it takes to put on a good golf broadcast or to cover this game, in a meaningful way. And since I've got on this side of it, I think that's been my favorite part of it, is being part of that team. I love sitting between broadcasts with guys, like-minded guys, and talking about a sport that everybody obviously loves and is very, very passionate about.
Johnson, I know how much you love golf. Like, you want to play. If you're not playing, you want to watch. So I know you consumed a lot of golf television when you were playing on the PGA Tour and winning on the PGA Tour. Did you always like it? Were there things about it that you didn't like?
No, I think I always had a pretty good understanding that how difficult the game is to cover. I mean, when you look at other sports, football, baseball, basketball, there's one ball in play. And when you cover golf, there's 156, or on this past weekend, there's 54 guys out on the golf course playing 18 different holes. So it's probably the most sport to produce and to televise. And I just, echoing Brendon's comments, that has been my favorite thing about getting into the media landscape, is the fact that we have teams, whether you're on the studio side or the broadcast side. It is amazing. I think more players should come take a behind the scenes look, just to have that perspective while they're out there playing, of the amount of people that it takes to make the product look as good as we possibly can make it.
The other thing is a lot of people have found out is that it's not just people, whether it's on Golf Channel or on network television. There's so many more voices that have real voice in the game, and they are being agents for change, and at least for conversation. We've got a content creating council associated with the PGA Tour. We're going to take a quick break. We got a lot more to get to with Johnson and Brendon on this Tuesday, because Ludvig Aberg, the latest European to win, and I heard Brendon have some thoughts on Sunday night on SiriusXM about the term generational talent and how easy or reluctant he may be to apply that tag to certain players. We'll talk about the latest winner and a whole lot more. Little Wagyu Filet, Brendon and Johnson on a Tuesday at his 5 Clubs. Back with you right after this. We are back in on 5 Clubs. This segment brought to you by Peter Millar. They've been refining luxury and style for over 20 years, and everything that I wear, wherever I'm going, I know I can rely on them. Of course, our presenting sponsor, Century Insurance, right by you. Johnson, Wagner, Brendon de Jonge with me, Wagyu Filet on this Tuesday morning. Their radio show on SiriusXM on the PGA Tour Radio Network, which you can, of course, listen to this show, in addition to watching it on Golf Channel, is on Monday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. All right, Johnson, let me start with you about Ludvig Aberg, because when somebody bursts on the scene, and he was so good in college, and it seemed like, well, gosh, he stayed in college a long time because it seemed like he was ready even before he left, and then he's on a Ryder Cup team, and then he wins right away, it seems like, and then he's in majors, and he contends right away like he did at Augusta National. Generational talent is a term we now use. Why do you think it's comfortable to apply it to him?
Well, I mean, obviously the physical tools are there. Every aspect of his game is pretty spot on. I mean, personally for me, I love the mechanics of his setup. His arms hang perfectly down from his shoulders. But when I really look at Ludvig, what I think makes him a generational talent is the fact that he's smiling on the golf course. He's having fun. He's enjoying it. When people ask him what his plan is for the day, he's like, I'm just going to go out there with my caddy, Joe Scovren, and we're going to have fun. And that's what it looks like he's doing, to the point of when he makes that putt on 18 for the win and gives that emotional fist bump, he's going over to Joe for an embrace. Then Joe Scovren sticks out his hand like for a regular handshake. And when Ludvig goes in there, Joe kind of slaps it away and gives him a hug. Like, those guys truly look like they're having fun and enjoying it. And Ludvig, in his post-round press conference, he said that playing golf is the most fun thing he can do, and playing golf trying to win a tournament is even more fun. That is refreshing to somebody to hear a guy talk about the game that way.
Yeah, Brendon, on the post-game Sunday night on SiriusXM, I heard you and Jason Sobel talking about this particular topic. Express again what you said then about saying, no, this guy is just that.
Yeah, Gary, I think that term generational talent was something that gets thrown around a little bit too loosely. It's kind of like elite in youth sports. It gets thrown around way, way too loosely. But you watch this guy play, and everything about him just makes sense when you talk generational talent. Like, Johnson talked there about the physical tools. That's right in your face. The physical tools are unbelievable. But the way this guy carries himself, the way that he speaks to the media, the way there Johnson talked about the smile on his face, it's so refreshing, Gary. We don't see that very often anymore. And it looks like he's having fun. And if you're taking your kids out to go watch golf, Take them out to go watch this guy. The way that he goes about doing everything is just so refreshing, and it's awesome to see.
Johnson, here's something else. You mentioned the smiling and the byplay with him and Joe Scavron. You can build yourself up to what you think could be as good as anybody. But he looks comfortable in what is traditionally and normally very uncomfortable environments. And this is not something he's had to build to by having been out there for 5 years. Like right away, being in the mix in a major championship, he carries himself, like you said, like I was born to do this stuff. You can't simulate that. He's doing things for the first time, and he's not overwhelmed by any of that. That's why I'm totally comfortable thinking he can do anything in the game.
Gary, well said. I mean, the way he won that golf tournament, obviously playing the way he did on the back nine, but the tee shot on 18 and the putt on 18 to win, the tee shot, knowing it's a sliver of a fairway, all of them are at Torrey Pines, to step up. And I loved the coverage on CBS. They had the top tracer, and that little red dot was just right in the middle of the fairway once it reached its peak. It was going no other place. It was a done deal that he was birdieing that hole. That's what superstars do. And Brendon and I talked about this a little bit last night. Like, is Ludvig Aberg going to be the next number one player in the world? Now, granted, it may be 3 years down the road because Scottie's going to be on fire for a while, but I truly believe that he's the most poised to knock Scottie off that perch, whenever it may be.
All right, so let's get a quick assessment of Scottie Scheffler. I know you guys thought that he'd pick one off. That didn't happen on the West Coast. Johnson, right back to you. Give me an assessment of him 3 starts in.
He finished T9, T25, T3. He spoke a lot about having 3-4 weeks where he couldn't do anything, where he lost some of the practice momentum he had in the offseason. I think he's in a great spot. He's going to have 2 weeks off. Now, the main issue last week for him was a lot of pulls, both off the tee and with his iron play, most specifically Sunday, that derailed his chance of winning on 11, the par 3, and on 16, the par 3. He's going to go home to Dallas these next 2 weeks. He's going to work his tail off, and I fully expect him to be there come late Sunday at Bay Hill, where he's won 2 times recently.
Yeah, Brendon, what do you think of what you saw of Scottie? Yeah,
he's got to be hugely encouraged, G-Dub. I didn't even think he played well last week on a golf course that he doesn't even really like, and he still finishes T3. He was around the lead there, had an outside chance there. If he makes eagle at 18, who knows what's going to happen. But yeah, I think after missing a little bit of time, as Johnson says, there 3 finishes inside the top 25, 2 in the top 10 in the signature events. Scottie's going to be just fine.
All right, when we continue here, let's peel back the layers on guys who got a lot of production and should be very encouraged, even though they may not have necessarily won. And also, what does it say about this early part of the year, having 7 different winners from 7 different nations, and in particular, the European community? We continue. Wagyu Filet on a Tuesday. It is 5 Clubs, back with everybody right after this. Back in on this Tuesday, as you can see, with Brendon de Jonge, Johnson, Wagner with us. And again, they've got their own radio show on Monday nights on the PGA Tour Radio Network at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. You guys did a show a couple weeks ago right here, and one of the interesting topics was talking about college golf. And I know that your opinions have evolved on that. Johnson, let me start with you, because a couple weeks ago, I thought it was great drama late on a Friday. Luke Clanton trying to make the cut, getting the point needed to secure himself a tour card. Why do you think, and why has your opinion about PGA Tour U in this gateway to the PGA Tour evolved to the degree that it has?
Well, just because of the success these guys are having, whether it was just on the Korn Ferry Tour when PGA Tour U started, or in the case of the guy we're just talking about, Ludvig Aberg, like the first guy to come out of PGA Tour U, #1 to get a card right to the PGA Tour. And because of his success, they started the PGA Tour U Accelerated program, which we've already seen Gordon Sargent earn a card. Luke Clanton's 1 point away. They're having success. And I know I think it's right where it needs to be, because when you look at the majority of players coming out of college, they need to go to the Korn Ferry Tour for at least a year, sort of pay their dues a bit before they move up. If you give too many people access straight to the PGA Tour, I think it could have a negative effect on them, because not everybody's ready for that stage.
That's a fair point. Brendon, do you agree with that, that where it's at now is right where it should be?
Yeah, 100%, Gary. I think it's perfect right there. And to Johnson's point, he's exactly right. Not everybody is ready to fill those big shoes right away. But I was with him. I didn't like this program at first. I didn't think it was good. I thought everybody needed to go through Q school, just kind of find your way. I didn't feel like there was any chance that there'd be guys ready to come straight out of college and be ready to win. And, well, obviously, how wrong could I have been? I love this program. I think it's fantastic, and I love this accelerated version of that they've got now as well. Look,
but part of this, I believe, was a reaction to Liv and the idea of them poaching top collegiate talent. Whatever the reason is, I think that they reacted properly, want to be more proactive. Johnson, I think your point is valid about, and I don't even want to call the Korn Ferry Tour an incubation period. Talent is not hidden. If you're good enough, you're going to find your way. And with few exceptions, and Scottie Scheffler is one who proved that, look, don't skip steps. And look, would he have taken the advantage of being able to skip a step if he was in the accelerated program and not doing the Korn Ferry step that he did, where Oberg didn't have to? The other part of this, Johnson, is that college golf is a much more viable product that we're seeing now more on television. The bottom line is, if there are players who you have a familiarity with before they even turn pro, it's a television show. You want to see them. So I get the point of hey, give them the platform, and if they earn it, get them on the tour.
Yeah, but what we're seeing right now, Gary, is with those guys like Luke Clanton and Sargent, and I'm blanking on the kid from Auburn, but he's just 2 points away as a freshman last year. He's a sophomore now.
Yeah.
Jackson Coyven, thank you. So, I mean, these guys are doing it. There's another guy from UVA that's climbing that ladder. So the opportunity's there for them to earn a card without even being a senior in high school. I mean, a senior in college. And then the opportunity's there to get the Ludvig Aberg. You stay 4 years, you graduate, you finish your eligibility, you've got another option there. We can't just start handing out PGA Tour cards to college kids. We're already cutting down, as I mentioned earlier, 20% of the fully exempt cards. You can't just start adding handfuls of college kids. They have to go earn it and go through the process.
We're going to cut Johnson loose. I don't think any of those college kids, if you watch their show on the YouTube channel, Five Clubs Golf, I don't think any of those kids didn't go to Japan and then went back to campus and for 2 weeks ate pizza and wings like Brendon did. I do not think Ben James at UVA did that or is doing that. Listen, have a safe travel day. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you, guys. See you, Brendon. See you, Gary.
All right, we come back. Brendon and I will put a bow on this show on a Tuesday right here on Five Clubs right after this. All right, some final thoughts here on this Tuesday. Mexico this week on the PGA Tour. You got an early thought? Our picks tomorrow. You got a thought about anybody in particular?
I do. I've got a thought about a guy that was the only guy to take down Scottie Scheffler when Scottie was in the middle of a torrid stretch.
Yes.
Love the fact
that the Baylor School in Chattanooga, Tennessee.
Love the fact that his caddy wears a hat that says Wagyu stars on it. I gotta go with them. But
look at you with the nice sponsor plug.
Yeah, Stephen Jaeger. I've got a feeling Stephen Jaeger. It's a big golf course, wide open fairways. It's a guy that's worked hard to find some speed. He's hitting it a long way. I think this is great.
He is. I think he's one of the better stories on the PGA Tour in the last couple of years. He not only won that golf tournament in Houston, he played with Scheffler and didn't blink and was way over 180 ball speed of a guy who went and chased speed. That's a good pick. Of course, you and Johnson are in the basement, so that might have been a death knell for Stephen Jaeger. Reminder tomorrow, speaking of the journey, Cole Hammer is going to become a part of this program. He's on the Korn Ferry Tour. Walker Cupper played in the U.S. Open 10 years ago when he was a teenager. his journey. He's going to share with us throughout the year. He will join me. And Paige Sporanic as well will be with us. Thank you to Dan Hicks. Great to see you, my friend. Of course, Johnson Wagner. For all of us here on 5 Clubs, have a great Tuesday. We'll see you tomorrow.